Hi guys, S.L.Ager here, author of the Cadwallader Quests, the 11 plus vocabulary novels and their supporting workbooks, which you can see behind me just there. Today I want to talk about something that is probably seems fairly obvious to many people, but again I see this question asked a lot in the Facebook groups, and also even I can see from some of the parents' questions that there is a misunderstanding, and when I talk about this, it'll be easy to understand why. So the question that I'm going to discuss, I'm going to answer today is, what is a grammar school? Okay, so what is a UK grammar school? I've got some notes in front of me, so if you see my eyes moving around, then please forgive me because I'm just checking out my notes. So if you're starting to research secondary schools in general, or perhaps you've moved from overseas and English is a second language, then navigating the grammar school system and indeed the independent school system in the UK can be a bit of a minefield. And moreover, trusting the information that you come across can also be a minefield, especially if you're a busy working parent and you've got younger children to tend to. Researching grammar schools can be so confusing. So, what I would say is, even when you've listened to my talk today, always check your target school's websites for details. And the reason for this is because grammar schools, so when I say grammar schools, I'm referring to state funded selective grammar schools in the UK. Independent schools also, but grammar schools, I'm talking about state funded grammar schools. So they usually can choose their own admissions policies, which means that they can change them when they like. Now, I'm not saying this happens yearly or even every 2 years, but grammar schools will change their admissions criteria. Also, they change their test providers. So always check your target school's website and keep checking it, because my daughter's school, Kendrick, they changed their test provider halfway through our study, and also my son's school, Reading School, has just changed their admissions criteria with less than a year's notice for this year. So that's 2021's test. So please don't just check once, keep checking your target school's websites for tests, for admission criteria. And when I say admission criteria is, do they have a catchment area? Some schools don't, most schools do. So always check. And I won't be going into details of catchment for specific schools today. So what is a grammar school? So in a nutshell, it can't be nutshelled, otherwise we wouldn't be here talking right now. So grammar schools are selective state funded. So when I say grammar schools, this is what I mean. Grammar schools are selective state funded secondary schools which generally have a strong focus on academic achievement. So in simple terms, they're free, but they're selective. So what do I mean by selective? So selective means that your child must pass an exam in order to gain a place to a state funded grammar school. And from my experience, and I'm happy for anybody to correct me as always, your child will only be able to sit this test once. There's no resit. It's not like GCSEs that you can resit if you're not happy with your grades. You get one shot at this test per school. As I say, happy to be corrected if anybody knows any different, but I believe that's the case. So state-funded grammar schools select their pupils to go into year 7, and it's by means of an academic test called the 11 plus. It's confusing because a lot of people think you sit it when you're 11, but in actual fact, the test is sat usually in the first term, actually usually in September, a few differ, of year 6. So as soon as your child starts year 6 of their primary school, whether that be independent or state primary school, they will sit the 11 plus test. and that could be in their own school, as I think is in Buckinghamshire, but quite often in the test centre or at the school of their choice. So, for instance, both my children's schools, that my kids went and sat the test at the school. You will find that some dates clash. This is happening more and more. You have to do your homework to find out which tests you want to sit and which days, and those dates are usually released on your school's website around about May time, but again, that can vary. You'll see the words 11 plus sometimes written as 11 and the word plus, 11 with a plus sign, or even written out as two words 11 plus. They're all referring to the same test if it's for a state grammar school. Now, I'll caveat that because when I say the same test, I'm talking about state grammar schools, and they all the 11 plus tests are so different. Okay, so even though it could be a test written by CEM or by GL, or even the school may write their own tests, each school can ask the exam board for certain nuances for their school. So all 11 plus tests are different, and also it's not a level playing field in terms of if you pass, you're in. Some schools are so oversubscribed that not only do you need to pass the test, you need to pass with a very high margin, and that was the case for both my children's schools. And sometimes those schools are labelled super selective because of lack of places. And there are other schools that you will hear called super selective, such as Henrietta Barnett School and St. Olave's School, QE for boys. And that is because not only are the tests really difficult and quite often have 2 rounds, the schools are so oversubscribed that again you have to pass with quite a high margin. And that's certainly the case with the Sutton schools, who set their own tests, and again it's called the 11 plus, but it's a completely different kind of test. I think it's called the set, but don't quote me on that. Again, check each school. So results for the 11 plus, when we did it, we received, it was all letter. Now you can register online and you usually get your results via email, and they are usually around mid-October, in time to fill in your CAF. So what's a CAF? It's your common application form, which if you're going to a state school has to be filled in. Now, don't make this mistake. If you have only experienced the independent sector up until grammar school application, you may not have filled in a CAF. So please, if you're sitting for a state grammar and you want to choose a state grammar because your child has met the criteria, then you must fill in a CAF. I have seen parents with children who've successfully sat the 11 plus and the parent forgot to fill in the CAF because they've been in the independent system and didn't realise. So also the dates and months I've given have all been sort of pre-COVID. In this new COVID era, all these dates can be changed, all the criteria can be changed. So again, please, please, please check your school's website. Okay, so the 11 plus is weighted, which means your child's age will be taken into consideration. Some people agree with that, some don't. I have a younger child, July born, and a September child. So I've seen both sides, but both kids passed. So the younger children will be given extra marks. Okay. I'm not sure exactly how the tests are standardized. Again, you can find that information online and on your school's websites. Let's have a look. Okay, so grammar schools, they only intake, or most schools will only intake on the whole into year 7. If grammar schools are taking in other years, it's so in years 8, 9, 10 and above, it's usually called an in-year test, and that test will be very different to the 11 plus, okay? And the test will be written by the school, and it will include the subjects that your child kind of should have covered hitherto that point, if that makes sense. So an in-year test will be very different to the 11 plus. Now, some grammar schools, quite a lot actually, then do another intake for the sixth form. And I think that's all based on a point criteria from the GCSE results. So you can apply in general in year 7 and sixth form. So in independent schools, you can apply in year 7 and year 9. It's very different for state grammars. It is just year 7 and the 11 plus is taken in year 6, okay? Unless you are applying for an in-year place, and that is when a place comes up because somebody has left. Okay, but again, check the target schools' websites. So the United Kingdom has over 3,000 state-funded secondary schools. Okay, just gonna have a drink. So over 3,000 state-funded secondary schools, and out of these, there's about 164 that are state-funded grammar schools, and they cater for approximately 167,000 pupils. So there aren't many state grammar schools, okay? And state grammar schools can be co-educational, meaning they're mixed, excuse me, or they can be single-sex. Although there are some single-sex grammar schools that now accept both boys and girls into the sixth form. So you can have co-ed, single-sex, and then mixed in the sixth form. Both of my kids are at single-sex grammars. Okay, so the 164 grammar schools are located in 36 English local authorities. There's no grammar schools in Wales, and that's at the time of this recording, or Scotland, but there are a further 69 grammar schools in Northern Ireland. And the majority of grammar schools do adhere to catchment criterion, and they will give preference to children living within their designated catchment areas. And again, check the school's website. However, there are some schools that will recruit without catchment area policies. And there are some schools, such as my son's school, Reading, which offers boarding places. And again, the Reading School's boarding places has a different admission criteria to non-boarders. So it's all about the detail. Always, 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 parents, do your homework. If you've read it in black and white, or even pick up the phone and speak to the school, that's the best way. And then, I see so many parents that didn't take into consideration catchment and travel time and so on, and are very disappointed when they realise their child passed the 11 plus with stonking marks and can't get a place. So do your homework. Okay, so everything sounds pretty straightforward so far, I'm hearing you thinking, but this is when things start to get a little bit murky. So the next sentence I'm going to say it slowly. Okay, so not all selective state grammar schools have the term grammar in their name, okay? And some schools do have the term grammar in their name, and they are not state grammar schools. Okay, so what do I mean by that? And this is where people get really confused. So my son's school is called Reading School. Now, a lot of people call it Reading Grammar or Reading Boys. In actual fact, it's just called Reading School. So if you were talking to somebody who knew nothing about grammar schools and you said, yep, my son goes to Reading School, there's no indication that it's a grammar school, okay? My daughter's school is called Kendrick School. Again, no indication that it's grammar school. And like Dr. Challoner's High School in Buckinghamshire is another good example. On hearing that, you'd probably think, oh, it's a state comprehensive school. Great, cool. But it's not, it's a grammar school. So on hearing those school titles, we wouldn't know they are state grammars. And then just when we think that we've got it all nailed, like I said before, many schools with the word grammar in their titles are actually fee-paying independent schools. And this is all born out of, historical governments changing schools from grammar schools to comprehensive schools, and some schools wanted to keep their grammar title and so on, but that's for another conversation. So I'm just going to repeat this. Many schools with the word grammar in their titles are actually fee-paying independent schools. And so what do I mean by that? So the Bury Grammar School in the north of England, they are fee-paying independent schools, okay? Bradford Grammar School is an independent fee-paying school, yet they are called grammar schools in their title. Okay, so this can be incredibly confusing to somebody just starting out on the road to finding out and understanding the term grammar school, and especially for someone moving from overseas who hasn't been through our school system and doesn't have English as a first language. It can be very confusing. And then, just to confuse things even further, a lot of independent schools select their pupils using their own bespoke Year 7 entrance exam. And that exam is sometimes referred to as, well, often referred to as the 11 plus, yet it's nothing like the 11 plus that a state grammar school may use in terms of, state grammar might be very strictly CEM, a non-multiple choice, or GL, a non-multiple choice, or it could be a mixture of lots of, it could be English, long maths, short maths, whereas a lot of independent schools may use GL or aspects of GL or aspects of CM, but a lot of them write their own tests. Okay, and also many of the independent schools, rather than the state grammars that sit their test in September of Year 6, independent schools tend to, not all, check the websites, tend to have their tests after the Christmas holidays, okay? So just to sum up what we've discussed, not all selective grammar schools have the word grammar in their name, and many schools with the word grammar in their name are actually fee-paying independent schools who operate a different 11 plus entrance exam system to that of state grammars, and at a different time of year. So state grammar schools tend to be in September of Year 6, although there were delays because of COVID last year, and there may be this year, I don't know, and maybe next, we don't know. Fee-paying independent schools who may have the term grammar in their name tend to offer bespoke 11 plus tests in the January of Year 6 without COVID. And yes, so again, just to quickly, let's talk about why they're even called grammar schools. So the name is a hangover from schools connected to the very early monasteries that were initially established to teach Latin grammar, which was the language just of academia many years ago. So in other words, hundreds of years ago, if you couldn't read or understand Latin, you didn't stand a chance in academia because nothing was really written in English. So that's why they've got the term grammar school. And I hope that helps. I hope I've not garbled on too much. As I say, to some people, it may be a very obvious question, but I see so many people asking for clarification on the grammar school that I thought I'd hop on and just make a quick video. I hope that helps. If you like it, please do give me a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe wherever that button is. I'm not sure. I think it's on my intro video. And I will be uploading more videos. And if you've got any questions, just ask in the thread below and I'll answer them. And I will make a video. I see a question: is a grammar school right for my child? So I will make a video on that hornet's nest soon. So thanks for watching. Bye.